Welcome to the new season of the Live Your Spa Life show. The Spa and Spa Life stands for Seek Power Always, that divine power within you to do what you're here to do. The theme for this season is intentional living. Amazing people like you share ways to live by design and with purpose to ensure that this short ride of life occurs with choice, physically, financially, spiritually, and in your relationships to create a world-class life. In these times of uncertainty, it's time for you to move past the distractions and start trusting yourself more through your God-giving knowingness. No one truly knows better what's best for you than you. In this season, you'll have plenty of examples of people choosing their best life and creating a positive impact through intentional living. Thank you for sharing your precious time with us and being part of the Live Your Spa Life conversation.
With us today is Marnie Schneider, a CEO, inspirational speaker, author, radio host, philanthropist, and best of all, daughter and mom. A Philadelphia native now living in the Carolinas, she consistently devotes her time and resources to help others achieve their own victory. Marnie's passion for sports shines through her book series, Game Day in the USA. The series is a top 100 kids sports travel books by Amazon. It's a series that includes 8 books that focus on a city and its football team. It follows the lovable characters, Football Freddy and Fumble the dog, and a rich history of culture in each city that they visit. Marnie finds inspiration from her family. Her grandfather, Leonard Toast, was the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles and also founded the Ronald McDonald House. Also, Marnie's mother, Susan Toast Spencer, was the first female GM of the NFL team, and Marnie's pride is in her 3 children, Jonathan, Goldie, and Leo. She's received honors for her time and attention to spend her time raising money for the Ronald McDonald House and Alzheimer's Association. To this day, she remains very active on the Ronald McDonald House, and in Charlotte, she is on their board. So Marnie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Diane. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you. Really.
I love the rich
grateful.
history. My pleasure. And I just love the rich history of your family and football. I have such fond memories. A lot of times they don't talk about like the daughters, right, that follow football and that how that impacts their life. And, my family had, because I'm in San Diego in California at that time when I grew up, the Chargers were our team and that was what was in town. And my family had season tickets since the 60s. And I can remember every Sunday, like the whole family getting together and just having that time to just have something to cheer for, something to spend time with your family. And I would love, as particularly as your grandfather owning the team, what was that like for you growing up, just being in the energy of that?
Well, certainly football is a great sport. It's a great family sport. Being a fan is such a fun thing to do. For me, I was really lucky because I had a little bit of a different experience with it because I got to travel around to all these great cities. But I would say this, that football, I learned so much about life because I was taught, okay, you get 4 chances to go 10 yards. And unless you really blow it, you're going to get another 4 chances during the next 60 minutes of that game. So I kind of love that metaphor for life. Like you get chances to get more chances. And so you just keep moving the ball down the field and make your way to the end zone. And so I think that that's what's something so special and beautiful about football for me is that I got to learn that at a young age. And I think that those life lessons have definitely helped me get through difficult times, get through good times, bad times. My grandfather would always say, nothing's ever as good as it seems, and nothing's really ever as bad as it seems.
Right. Well, it's interesting, there's always a lot of spotlight on the players, but you got to see kind of that behind the scenes, perspective of the person who has to kind of keep it all together and keep everybody happy and be able to, move forward to the next season. What did you notice? What were some of those lessons that you were able to kind of witness of somebody running, an organization like that? Like, what were some of those life lessons that translated into you incorporate them today?
So my mom, Susan, was and still to this day is the first and only female who held the position of vice president, legal counsel, and general manager of a professional football team. So I think that when my mom was doing that in the early 80s, the pressure was incredibly high. Well, anytime you have a high level job, whether you're a male, female, people are always trying to tell you that you're not qualified for that job, you're not the right fit. They're always trying to, reposition themselves or say that they could do a better job. And I think that some of the things that I learned from watching my mom was truly just having the tenacity to stick with it and to be patient and to follow her gut instinct, and also just to do the work. Like every single job, you have to do the heavy lifting. And those jobs are often not very glamorous, but people think they're glamorous. And there's a lot of waiting and a lot of, hurry up and waiting and making, accommodating for other people. And I think I learned those life lessons too, because while you're traveling around and you're going to football games, you're also sitting around waiting for the game to start, waiting for the team to be ready to go, waiting for this, waiting for that, and trying to figure out how to make things happen all at the same time.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. I was the only woman on my squad when I was a police officer. And, back in the day, I actually remember going to a couple houses and somebody saying like, I want to have a real police officer show up. Like they thought that males were like the only ones who could show up to calls, right? And so that whole trusting your gut and be able to make those decisions. I mean, it's so important as you step into areas that are, just maybe out of your normal realm, and to just really have that stick-to-itiveness, right? And to be able to have that. I mean, part of what we talk about here at Spa Life is that seek power always, right? That within you, like to trust yourself in making decisions and moving forward. It's kind of like the speed of the leader. Like when you show up in that way, it's kind of like how you do one thing is how you do anything. And so that consistency, I'm sure your mother had the patience that few have, right? When you go through those things.
Well, I think, first of all, kudos to you to being a woman on the police force. That is definitely a fish out of water kind of position. And I know that there's definitely a lot of people that probably looked at you the same way they looked at my mom, like she can't do that job. There's no way. But my mom was always like, listen, I can do this job. I mean, I'm smart, I'm qualified. Why can't I do this job? And I know that, and especially then when you add in, because you're very pretty, my mom was very beautiful and very dynamic. So those things often you would think would be, an addition to who adding to your career. But sometimes they're not taken as well, because it's hard for a lot of people to see a beautiful woman who's smart and bright and then also being able to do her job. So I think that it does make it harder in some ways. My mom did an amazing job and understood her position and wanted to also be a leader for other women. We have a saying in our house that, cheering for others makes you a leader, a cheerleader. So cheerleading for other women and other people is a really great thing. And it really does, I think, that really does level the playing field when you can embrace others and remind them that you're here to cheer for them and support them and appreciate what they're doing to give back to you.
I love that. I love that putting together being a cheerleader. So that's awesome. So good.
Yeah.
So, I know a lot of people have like, especially in the last couple of years, like we've seen fear pop up in all kinds of crazy ways, whether it's, the lockdowns, people, just not knowing what to trust, and, even conversations and communications, like if somebody isn't agreeing with you type thing, it's like they've become the enemy. And, it's really a wild thing that's happened. And so, what is kind of your relation to fear? You kind of talk about like what your focus is. And I think it's really important for people to how they look at fear and how they move through fear.
Well, definitely. My grandfather would always say that you can't live in fear. All right. But what does that really mean? Because everybody has their own version of what that is. So some people are very fearful of catching a cold, or some people are very fearful. And I think that, and so certainly trying to understand other people's fears is always a good place to be, because not everybody's going to be, I would be fearful to get in a squad car with, on a call or whatever. Like that would be scary to me. Would I be interested in doing it? Sure, of course. But would I definitely be a little scared? Yes. However, I also think that having empathy dissipates fear. So it's some of the things where the more empathetic you can be towards other people and their fear, definitely that would help me understand it. But for me personally with fear, I try to be as prepared as I can. And I think that preparation can definitely take away the fear. So if I am fearful of being in a squad car or being in a situation, I try to prepare as much as I can so that when I am in that situation, the fear doesn't really grip me. It's really more about like, okay, I know what I'm doing here versus I really have no idea and it's going to be really scary. So in every situation, I try to do as much homework as I possibly can. And then the other part of it is just know that sometimes you just have to let it go. And my oldest son, when he was 9 months old, had neuroblastoma and had cancer, and I had done a lot of homework on finding the right doctors and getting the right surgeons and did all that. But at some point, I'm not in the operating room. So when they came and got him and took him to surgery, I was very fearful of the outcome. But I also knew that I had done my homework and we had great doctors, and it was just up to me to say some prayers, some Hail Marys, and ask other people to do the same. And hopefully we were going to get a good outcome. And we did. We got a great outcome. And so that was something that I'm very fortunate, and certainly I'm grateful that Jonathan is here with us. Other people might not have some of those outcomes, but I think being prepared takes away some of the fear of life.
Right, absolutely. I love you mentioning about being prepared. I think about, just even the correlation with football, when it comes to training, right? It's like, anyone I know who's been in like professional sports, it's like going to the actual game, that's the icing on the cake, whether you get to the Super Bowl or any of those kind of things, it's the day-to-day habits, it's the training that really makes the difference to allow you to do what you do. And it was the same, with the police department too, because in stressful situations, you revert to your training. Right. And so how well you prepare and what you do to train your mind or your body, your spirit, like all the different aspects of ourselves, that comes down to doing all the things that we can do on our side of the court and then having that letting go. And you've talked about having team around you and having the right team around you. So can you speak a little bit about that, about having the right team around you to get through challenging things?
Well, first of all, I love mind, body, and spirit, because it's really what that really is what elevates us to do whatever it is. So having the right mind, keeping your body together and healthy, and then having a good spirit, a good attitude. So I love all that. So that's great, and I love that we can share that. Yeah, a team. I mean, it's all about a team, because if you don't have a good team, you can't really get off. You can't. The ball isn't going to go anywhere. You can't do anything. Again, I'll reference Jonathan. It was kind of like in Bruce Willis, in Armageddon, rather, Bruce Willis puts together his team. They were kind of like a ragtag team of people to go get the asteroid, but it worked. And so it doesn't really matter necessarily what your team is, as long as you put together what you think is the team that's going to make sense. So for me, with Jonathan and his neuroblastoma, I had a great team of doctors, surgeons, physical therapists, speech therapists, and I knew that, and friends and family, and I knew that that was a great team that I had that was going to help me get him off out of the starting block, whatever metaphor you want to use. So I think having a great team is something that makes all the difference. And certainly I love team sports, and even individual sports, there's a team. You've got trainers and you've got coaches and you've got whatever it is, family members that are making sacrifices. And again, it's always about, certain things, discipline and being prepared. Those are the two things that I think are kind of what I would always fall back on: having discipline, because discipline is something that you have to use every day, and then also being prepared. Those things certainly, and then putting together a great team, and you might, if you're lucky, have a little bit of success.
I love it. As you're saying this, I always do this play on words and stuff. So it's like prepared and determined, PD, police department, all of it, the team.
Yeah. See, that's right.
Right.
And I love law enforcement. My grandfather was a huge advocate of law enforcement. I love working with the Police Athletic League, Police Activities League. Yesterday was National Law Enforcement Day. So I think that we're so grateful that people want to go out there and make sacrifices and live in fear a little bit, because you don't know when you're on a job as a law enforcement what you're going to encounter. So preparation is so important, so that you keep your wits about you. Like Mike Tyson says, everybody's got a plan until you're punched in the face.
This is so true. Definitely. So one of the things that I noticed you had a throwback picture of like the locker room of the players in prayer, right? And you were offering a prayer for a recently injured player. And so, that's one of the things that I remember so much about just growing up. And I look at, football and faith and just the interconnection and about having that power of prayer. And for me, that whole kind of, it goes all together. It's like the motto in my family is faith, family, and friends, right? And I think that having that foundation is such a huge thing. And I think that was actually something very cohesive about having prayer in and around your life, around the sport. What did you see kind of, again, in part of that behind the scenes of how faith came into play?
Well, I get emotional when I start thinking about it because it really does make a difference. It really does. People coming together, whatever faith they have, and saying a prayer or being together, being connected. And certainly recently we've all really watched something really pretty miraculous. People, joining together and praying together, whatever faith they are, whether they're Christian, Catholic, Jewish, Muslim, whatever it is, whatever version they want to pray in. And I think that for me, I had an opportunity to watch grown men pray together on team planes and celebrate victory and pray for victory. And also, it's something that I really value when people take a moment to say a prayer and to celebrate what their faith is. And it's really important. And it's important, I mean, not necessarily now more than ever, but maybe now more than ever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And we get to create these experiences, right? We get it. That goes back to being grateful and being able to really notice our blessings and the things that we have in life. And it reminds me because we do get to create our experiences and we get to be proactive in how we create our lives. We live life differently in, let's say, our kitchen versus our living room or our bedroom. So, what's your favorite room in your home and why?
Well, my favorite room, my kids are cooking because they're all really good cooks. They did not get that from me. It's definitely the kitchen. Although I certainly love to be able to sit in the office and create and have, be here right now. So I get to look around and say, oh, there's a football that was given to my grandfather and there's one that was given to my mom, and look around and say, oh, you can't see it, but there's a news clipping about my mom and whatever else, to really get to celebrate their success and their accomplishments. And that's really been the beautiful toolbox that they've passed on to me, is certainly having the ability to be appreciative for their success and wanting to sustain their legacy. So I would guess that, like, being around family, wherever that is my most favorite room.
Yes, love it. So talk a little bit about this series. I love these lovable characters and, what sparked that?
So, my mother was a teacher growing up. So she was a teacher when I was younger. She was a teacher, and then she went to law school later in life. But my mother was always about reading and writing. And on these long plane rides back from wherever, or even just sitting around and waiting, because there's a lot of waiting in football, she would hand me a notepad and say, write what you were thinking, or write about what you saw, write about the game, write why you're so sad that we lost. And so I had all these notes. And about 6 years ago, my mom started to exhibit some signs of dementia. And we thought that would probably be a good time for us to start putting together some of the things that we had shared while I was younger. And we created Football Freddy. And Freddy was something that I like alliteration. So a long time ago, it was Football Freddy and Fumble the dog. And Fumble really is my dog. He's on the floor. I'll pick him up in a second. And so Football Freddy and Fumble the dog. And then said, all right, well, it was really just a hodgepodge of like my, thinking and traveling and being a young girl and all these things, and said, well, let's do it on each city. So we started writing Football Freddy and Fumble the Dog Game Day. And the first book is Philadelphia, and it takes you on a tour through the city of Philadelphia. I like to say it's my love letter to the football fans. I love Philadelphia. I love all the cities that I've been to, and I love cheering for the hometown team. So we did Football Freddy and Fumble the Dog Game Day in Philadelphia. And something really kind of crazy happened that year, that the book came out, and A few months later, the Eagles won the Super Bowl. So I was like, wait, that is really my first book. And I wrote this book, and I'm doing all these book signings, and we're able to, sell a lot of books and raise a lot of money for charity. And those are things that really matter to me. And I was like, that's not a coincidence. So
Right.
then we did another one, Game Day in the Carolinas. And in every book, with the exception of Philadelphia, Freddie has a tour guide to show her around that city because that's not her town. So we were able to add in my friends' kids in the book. So, for example, in Game Day in Pittsburgh, Freddie and Fumble tour around Pittsburgh with a young man named Hugh. He was a real person. He's my college roommate's son, and he's autistic. So while he's autistic, he still is a great tour guide for the city of Pittsburgh. So it was really wonderful for me to get to highlight some of the things that matter to me, like my friends, and then certainly acknowledging autism, acknowledging in Game Day in Tampa Bay, Freddie's tour guide is a young man named Frederico who lives at the Ronald McDonald House, and Frederico has cerebral palsy. So it was Freddie and Fred traveling around Tampa Bay. So those were fun things for me to get to do. In each book, there's something kind of special about each of Freddie's friends that shows her around the city. So I'm really proud of that.
Oh, it's so fun. I love to always hear the history behind books. And I think with all the tablets and cell phones and all that, we kind of get away from just the tangible book, and especially for children. I mean, I don't know about you, but growing up, having a story read to me before bed, to have sit down and listen to the story being told, I think that it's such an amazing thing. And it's part of our history for people to share those historical stories, and, especially to share legacies like your family, to be able to bring those things out in story. So I love that you have just kind of bringing the paper back, to be able to have that hard copy and to be able to have that experience. Because I think that really comes down to family memories that you get to create together.
Oh, definitely. Reading is a great coping skill. So the thing is that I think when kids read, we always say when kids read, we all win. But yes, absolutely. Picking up a book, I've got, like picking up the book and just having it and looking at it and reading it and, talking about your personal experiences while you're reading it and sharing it. Kids really love it. And I've been told, although we're really like second, third, and fourth graders are really kind of our target. But I've been told that it's books for all ages because everybody can relate to that traveling around or being a fan or a certain place, like whether you're at the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia or at the Andy Warhol Museum in Pittsburgh or the aquarium in Atlanta. So people are like, I went there, that's fun thing. I want to go, or I want to go do that. And I want to get the book and I want to go visit those places that you highlight in the cities. Yeah. So it's really fun for me.
So when you read these stories, let's say to your children or other children, what is the inflection or voice of some of your main characters?
Oh, geez. Well, I read them a lot to others. My kids are a little bit older now. They're probably sick of me, that's marketing on them. But I do a lot of Zoom readings to a lot of classrooms. I think that I just get excited to share, pardon me, to share the stories of me basically being Freddie. And certainly they all love Fumble because Fumble gets into a little bit of fun trouble. So whether he's reading Mother Goose to the ducks in Green Bay, Wisconsin, or whether he's swimming in the aquarium in Georgia, he does get into a little bit of fun trouble. But I love being able to talk about my own personal experiences of traveling around and me being Football Freddie. And I think that that is something that I love to do. And then certainly sharing my friends' children or my friends directly as their kids being kind of represented in my stories. That's something really special for me too.
I love it. And what's so great about reading books as well, especially with children, is that even if it's the same story, whoever reads it has a different inflection, has different experiences, things that happen. As you were speaking, I was reminding me of, I used to read to my daughters like Mr. Toad, like Wild Ride. And I would also go like, Mr. Toad, you can't ride the bike down the hill with no brakes. And so even to this day, my kids, like, we'll just go somewhere and they'll be like, Mr. Toad, and you'll hear them talk about that with their children. And this is part of just the fun of stories and reading and the excitement you build where, reading to your children is kind of those first steps of loving learning, right? And becoming a lifelong learner and being able to share some of those things. So I just love what you've created around this to really help those family memories.
Well, thank you. Fumbles, the kids, well, usually it's actually the children that I'm reading to. They will always give Fumble a voice. They love to create a different storyline for him, or where is he from? Or how did you get him? And Fumble, he's a rescue dog. So they always like to ask me about where he's from and how we got him, and make up stories about that too. So, which is what I love. They'll let them use their imagination and be creative. And we have a dog that looks just like him. And oh my goodness, that's they'll say cute things and add a lot of value to the story time.
So fun. I love this. So I always love like throwback fun facts and stuff. So tell us about the wedding singer.
Yeah, people love that. So yes, a lot. It seems like it was a very long time ago. I lived in Los Angeles and was friends with Adam Sandler, and he was making this movie called The Wedding Singer, and nobody really knew what it was, and no one really cared so much. And I was like, I'll do it. Can I have a part? And he's like, okay, sure. So I ended up playing Joyce, the flight attendant in The Wedding Singer, and it's been lots of fun because it'll be on Comedy Central or Bravo or whatever it is, and people will screenshot me doing my scene and or videotape it and send it to me, and I love that, and so it's fun, and I get to say that I was in a movie, and it's a pretty good movie, and I love the 80s. I grew up in the 80s, so what's not to like?
Me too. I love all the 80s movies too. So I'm like, okay, now I got to go back and watch that movie.
When I'm on an airplane and my kids will be like, Mom, and for, my scene takes place in first class, and we're usually not sitting in first class, but they're like, you think they have the hot towels up there? I'm like, I don't know. Should I go ask? Should I go tell them that I'm Joyce and handing out hot towels from The Wedding Singer? And they're like, no, please, that'll be too embarrassing. Don't do that. I'm like, okay, well,
That's right. I love it. It's so good. Well, I know that our listeners are going to want to stay in contact with you, and I'd love for you to share how they can get the series and how can they best do that.
So if they go to, okay, well, they can friend me on Facebook, and it's Marnie Schneider. They can go to Instagram and follow me. I'm Marnie Schneider 1 on Instagram, or they can just go to gamedayintheusa.com and they can buy the books there. They're available on Amazon also, but gamedayintheusa.com, they can find out about all the books. They can see what we're doing. They can request me to do a school reading off there. They can send me emails, and hopefully they'll send me nice notes saying that they love the books. And I love to keep in touch with everybody that writes to us and that says, oh, the books are so great and we love them, and how do we get them in our school? They're approved curriculum in a bunch of different school districts, so something I'm really proud of. And also something that we did where I live, in the county that I live, all the police squad cars have a copy of one of the books, Game Day in the Carolinas, because what we realized was that rather than giving a teddy bear, which is great, but having a book for law enforcement to present to a family or a child having something going on was really a great way to connect with them. And so that was something, that's a program that we're really proud of, and putting books in all the squad cars so that if there is something happening, that the child will get the book and the officer can read it to them and share it with them, and they can take it and perhaps get the officer's information so they can stay in touch and remember of like a nice moment reading a book and having that to kind of get them through some hard times.
Oh, I love that. There's so many moments where we come across things with children, and having, a communication tool to kind of bridge the gap and to have something to discuss is so important for, officers to have to connect with the community, especially with children. So what a beautiful thing that you offer there.
Yeah, well, reading is a great coping skill, reading and playing, just general playing. Certainly we love kids getting, playing and doing high level athletics, but just playing, going outside and throwing a ball, playing catch and reading a book. Those are really simple things that everybody can do, but they really do make everybody feel better after doing it. It's communicating, it's talking, it's throwing the ball, reading the book. You're interacting with somebody and making somebody know that they matter and that they're important and that you're there spending time with them. So those are all really positive, healthy things, no matter what age you are.
Absolutely. So what's one thing that people are surprised to learn about you?
That I'm not like 5'11". Everybody's like, oh my gosh, we thought you were going to be 5'11". And I'm like, why? Why would you think that? They're like, I don't know. Because I'm not that tall. I'm 5'3", whatever. I think that's one thing people are surprised when they see me. They're like, oh, we were expecting somebody very tall. I think that they're also surprised that I actually am as energetic as I appear to be when I'm on interviews or in a I don't know. I think people are just surprised, like, oh my gosh, you really are exactly like you are. I'm like, yes. The state motto of North Carolina, and it was also the motto of my school, is Latin, and it's esse, esse, quam, quam, videre, and translated that means be rather than seem to be. And I've always loved that saying. I would much rather be than seem to be. So I try to be as authentic as I can. And again, that comes down to like being prepared, I think, a lot of it, and not being being a real person is a much better place to be. You don't live in a lot of fear. Imagine if you're always creating a storyline and always doing all these things. And then that's probably pretty fearful to live that kind of life because you don't know what you really are. And
Right.
that would make me not feel very comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as you know, our theme for this season is intentional living. So I know that is a favorite quote of yours. And so how are you living an intentional life today?
Well, I think I try to be, as obviously that word authentic, but I try to be what I try to do what I say I'm going to do, and try to do all those things, and be nice to people, which sounds so silly and weird, but like it's so much. I like people. I want to be nice to them. I want to do nice things. I mean, my publisher's like, stop giving away all these books. And I'm like, okay, I want people to I want people to feel good, and those are things that really matter to me, and I want to feel good myself. I think that I'm very fortunate. I've been very, very blessed. I've got a beautiful family and a lot of great friends and a beautiful life and opportunities to see a lot of things, and so I want to make sure that I can be appreciative of all of that, and certainly do what I can to give back, and hopefully make a difference and continue my family legacy.
I love that. Well, you definitely come across as that. And I remember watching like some of your clips and videos, and I'm like, oh, she's just fun, right? Right?
Thank you.
Yes.
Being fun is really underrated or something, because like
Yes.
having fun is a really good thing, and being funny, and I being light and breezy, and obviously not everybody has the luxury of being light and breezy, and I understand that, and I'm very thankful, and I understand that there's mental illness out there, and there's a lot of people living with a lot of pain, emotional pain and physical pain, and so if I can be a little bit of a bright, shiny light, just a little bit, to some people, or my kids, my family. My mom has dementia, and I'm very thankful that she lives with me and I get to be her primary caregiver. So I think that just being thankful for all the blessings that we have in this world, that definitely makes me certainly be intentional, and just trying to have conversations with whoever it is, whether it's the Cynthia at the supermarket, or you, or my friends, and just having, being able to connect with people certainly makes me feel really good.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing your light with us today, and all of your wisdom, and just all the brightness you've brought into the lives of children and so many. I thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was such a pleasure, and so nice to know you. And you have such a great story. And like I told you, I'm a big fan of yours. And thank you for making sacrifices and going out there and protecting us, and doing those things. And I know you're probably a terrific mom and grandmother, so your grandkids are really lucky.
Oh, thank you so much. And I just so appreciate it. And it's great connecting with you here today, and with our listeners out there. I mean, we want to thank you for being here. And, this is a great opportunity to go, how is it in all the things happening in the world that you can be that bright light? Who do you want to bring a smile to their face? Maybe it's getting one of these books, right? Maybe you forgot about reading books to your kids in the crazy busyness of life, right? There's so many things that we can bring and do in our life. And it's those simple touches that really do make a difference. So until we connect again, live your spa life. Bye for now. Bye-bye.